senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and was a former U.S. ambassador to Azerbaijan. Thanks so much for being with us. I need to ask you first what you make of Russia making this declaration that it will not intervene militarily in Armenia. How much do you think it's going to really change the dynamics?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Andrea. And I think the last time we spoke, we were talking about this point. Everybody who knows about the conflict, including the Prime Minister of Armenia, knows this point. They know that Russia is not obligated to intervene in war involving Armenia on Azerbaijan's territory. So why did Putin decide to make this statement now? And I think he is sending a chilling signal to the leader of Armenia to knock off these attacks against civilians and cities in Azerbaijan, stop even targeting the pipelines, which Russia was against. They're not in favor of the pipelines. But I think Russia knows that international investors like BP, like Chevron, even like Lukoil are involved in exporting oil through that pipeline, Russia's Lukoil. So this is a powerful signal Putin is sending back to Pashinyan that it's going to come time soon where you're going to need to negotiate before the situation deteriorates against you even more. And don't pull us in to this war that we're not involved with. The other point is Russia is a mediator, like the U.S. is, of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. President Putin knows. He knows that Armenia is in breach of international law. So if Russia is going to maintain its status as an impartial mediator and maintain good relations with Azerbaijan, which is important to Moscow, Putin decided he has to send this signal now.
Okay, but there are those that say this is simply a facade that Putin is building because behind the scenes, Russia might be sending mercenaries and, surreptitiously delivering weapons to Armenia to help in the conflict. But the public face will have to be that they are not intervening and can still play the role of mediator.
So, yeah, I think that's more or less right. I think what President Putin is trying to do is to provide some level of support that would be expected for a treaty ally of Armenia. So that probably is why those air shipments of weapons have been coming into Armenia via Iran. But by the same token, he doesn't want to get dragged in militarily. And by the way, this is a long-standing Russian policy. I mean, back in 2016, when there were the so-called April events, the then head of the CSTO made us the same statement. If the fighting happens on the territory of Azerbaijan, we're not involved. If it happens on the territory of Armenia, we're obligated to defend Armenia.
Okay. Matthew, go back to the beginning. And help us understand what is really being negotiated here. In other words, in a sense, what is actually stopping the international community from saying, Armenia, this is an illegal occupation, you must just leave now? And instead, no, they have to sit at the table. Even over decades they've been negotiating, and it hasn't worked. What's at stake here? What is stopping them from taking a harder line?
Yeah, I think it's that the Armenian side gained control of the narrative from the very beginning. If you think back to 1988, when this independence movement of Nagorno-Karabakh Armenians from Azerbaijan began, it was still the Soviet Union, right? And in the United States, there was nobody who knew where Nagorno-Karabakh was unless they were told about it by Armenian Americans. And the story in 1988, again, when there was still the Soviet Union, was kind of an exciting one. I remember it, right? That our Armenian cousins and other family members, they're fighting for their independence and their rights in this evil empire of the Soviet Union. And from that moment on, Armenia kind of grabbed the hearts of a lot of Americans and Europeans. And then subsequently, they were able to pump in huge amounts of money to lobby the U.S. Congress and the U.S. executive branch. And Azerbaijan never succeeded in flipping the narrative. And then once Azerbaijan, as a state whose economy was driven largely by petroleum, started to get wealthy, it seemed like the big, bad, tough country, and poor Armenia has no oil. And boy, they started out in this noble quest for their independence. So Azerbaijan needs to fight, and Turkey too, fight for getting their own version of the narrative heard.
Fascinating. Okay, Matthew, thank you so much for joining us as always. We really appreciate it.